Special welcome today to the Ford family and to the Secchia family. Special welcome also to the foundation trustees, Mayor Bliss, Congressman Huizinga. This is indeed a very special occasion for Grand Rapids and for our nation. Established more than 10 years ago by Ambassador and Mrs. Secchia and their family to both celebrate and remember many of the people that helped build this community, Grand Rapids Community Legends has made an impact, both in terms of memory, but also in terms of what we see. In just the last decade across this community, you can walk the downtown area from Chief Nowakowiejik to Bishop Berriga, from Anna Sutherland Bissell to Lucius Lyon, from Mayor Lyman Parks to J. Van Andel, from Stanley Ketchel to Helen Clater, from William Alden Smith, and today, First Lady Betty Ford. The sculpture of Mrs. Ford is a gift from Community Legends to the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation for display here at the museum. Before we continue with our program, there are two additional groups that I'd like to thank. Number one, the members of the History Committee, and I saw Mary Seeger earlier on, Mary and Hank Meijer. These are the individuals that help guide those that will be commemorated in bronze. And the Art Committee, and you're here, please wave your hand. Thank you very much for your contribution. I also have to say a special thank you to the staff here, especially Joe Calvaruso and Don Holloway. They've been great partners in this important endeavor. First off, I'd like to introduce Don, who's the curator here at the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum. Don?
Thank you, Joe. Well, welcome to the grounds of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum. It's a special day, and we're very grateful that you're here. And to Ambassador Secchia and Mrs. Secchia, we are very proud of what you, your family, and the Community Legends Committee have brought to the grounds of the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Museum. So we thank you. Joe Calvaruso, we are very grateful for the generous help that the Gerald R. Ford Presidential Foundation has provided in bringing this project to completion, so we thank you. And Brett, with this, your second installation here, we are reminded of how fortunate we are to have such a gifted artist among us who so masterfully sculpts a confident and resolved president, and now his graceful and welcoming wife, First Lady Betty Ford. So we thank you. May this sculpture remind those who see it of a woman, wife, and mother who was at once playful and loving, fragile yet determined, who was filled with faith, and who gave of herself. Like this statue, Betty was grounded. I can only be myself, she said, and Mike, Steve, and Susan can attest that in their mother one would find no pretense, but an honesty that helped heal America. An honesty that brought needed attention to women's health, which itself helped heal families. And an honesty that helped lend strength to the voice of half our country when she said with characteristic candor and grace, being ladylike does not require silence. So we also thank you, Mike, Steve, and Susan, for giving of yourselves to this institution and to our community so that we might more fully celebrate your mother's centennial with the dedication of this beautiful work of art. Thank you.
Thank you, Don, and thank you for introducing our next group of speakers. I'd like to first call to the podium Steve Ford. Steve and I became friends over the sculpture just around the corner of his father, and it's a great opportunity to have he and the family here today.
Don, you were right, and when you said playful about Mom, that was very much right. And I was sitting over there when we had the reef lane, and I don't know if Mike or Susan did the same thing, but I wondered what, there were two grave sides there, and I wondered what traits I got from my mother, what traits I got from my dad, and we kind of wonder those things, what's passed on. And I know Susan and Jack and Mike, we all got a little piece of everybody there, but it's a fascinating thing to sit there and be part of a beautiful ceremony over there, and then to hear Peter and Joan. Thank you for doing this for Mom. Brett, we know your work. We know this is going to be great, so we're excited about that. Mom was to say the least, an interesting character. I can hear her saying now that many times she would say, I was just an ordinary woman in an extraordinary time. When we were young, Mike, Susan, you guys remember, Mom was the glue that held our family together. She was the one that, Dad was on the road a lot. He was trying to get reelected and get other Republicans elected across the country, and he traveled, and Mom was there, and she's the one that got us to our dentist appointment and the doctor and football practice and all those kind of things. And she kind of lived in Dad's shadow, as many congressional wives do. But she loved it. She helped raise us kids. She really was the glue that held us together. The wonderful thing about Mom's story is after Dad became president and the kids were gone and we were out of the way, she really blossomed. And we all know what she did for breast cancer, the awareness there, and taking the shame off that disease. And Mom had so many different pieces of her. She was kind of a prankster. She was kind of open, fun. She could be hard on you. I guarantee you, she was hard on me, and she could chase you down if she needed you. She healed people. You look at what she did for addiction, and she had a broken piece of her life, and we didn't concentrate on her brokenness. We praised her for how she raised herself up and began to heal people. And so that was my mom. She was a lot of different things, and I wasn't going to tell this story, but I sat next to Hank Meijer this morning at the ceremony there, and I saw Peter and Joan, and when I think of Mom, that was the thought I had. What traits did she give me? What characteristics? And she kind of gave me that fun, playful thing that Don talked about, the prankster. That came from Mom, not Dad. And I'm going to tell a joke a little bit on Peter here, and we'll see what happens here. Peter, I spent a couple days over the 4th with Peter and Joan. They were very gracious to me and had me out to their lake house, and Peter told a funny story about a joke he played on my dad, right? My dad used to love to, when he'd come to a ceremony, he'd get off the plane and they would play the University of Michigan fight song, right? And he'd make an entrance and he'd have the Michigan fight song. Well, Peter thought it would be funny, and it was very funny. He got ahead of Dad and he sent to the next location, I think they were in Asia, what they thought was the Michigan fight song, and instead he put the Michigan State fight song, and he retitled it. It said Michigan fight song, but underneath were all the actual music for the Michigan State song. Dad is coming off the plane, and the Michigan State fight song is playing, and he knew immediately Peter Secchia is the guy that did that. So Peter told that story last week. I was out in Grand Haven with him, and I thought, gosh, what would Mom do, right? What would Mom do? She would defend her man and get Peter back. And so I got to thinking, Peter has these wonderful flagpoles out at his lake property. He has a big American flag, and underneath it he has a Michigan State flag, right? And I got to thinking, wouldn't it be sneaky and fun and playful like Mom, that when Peter's sleeping one night, I will take that Michigan State flag down and I'll put up a University of Michigan flag on that flagpole, right? So that was a great idea. I said, Dad would love this, Mom would love this. So I didn't have a University of Michigan flag, so I said, I got to find a flag. So I was telling Hank, I went to Meijer's, and they got everything there, right? So, but I don't know where Hank is. Hank, I could not find a University of Michigan flag. So, but I went to the bedding department, and they have University of Michigan sheets, and I found a pillowcase, a big king pillowcase that has the maize M on it and the blue. And I went home that night, and secretly, while Peter and Joan were sleeping, I made this Michigan flag. I snuck out there like playful mom would, took the flag down, I raised the Michigan flag. That was last Sunday. I have a picture of it. It's in the dark because I had to leave that morning. And I don't know if you know that flag is hanging over there. You might not have looked up yet. But my mother left a little piece of her spirit at your place last week. And Peter, that was the playful nature of Mom. And we love you for what you did here. We love your caring for my parents, you and Joan. So thank you so, so much. And I want to bring my brother Mike up here as it's starting to rain. So.
Thank you, Steve. That you do see how Mom's playfulness and her prankster, its free spirit, got passed on. I don't think I got too much of that, but I'm so happy to be a part of this with Steve and Susan and Gail, my wife. And it is a special event, both the wreath laying and our statue dedication. Yesterday, Gail and I had a wonderful extended tour of the Betty Ford exhibit, hosted by Don Holloway. And again, I want to just give great thanks to you and your staff for this remarkable special exhibit on her life. It brought back tremendous memories and emotions and lots of new information that I wasn't really aware of about this wonderful woman. But I'm going to want to bring our children back, grandchildren, soon. But a significant part of my mom's story really started when she fell in love with this big, athletic, handsome football star from Michigan, Jerry Ford. And that really changed the whole trajectory of her life. She had this new journey that when she fell in love with him, and in 1948, in the fall, they got married and went right into the campaign season, and he was elected as a congressman for the 5th District. And off they went on this journey of public service for the next 45 years together as a team. And so she really didn't know what she was bargaining for or what she'd gotten herself into when she married Jerry Ford, but she embraced it. And she loved my dad deeply, and he loved her. As you know, they went to Washington, served in Congress for all these years, 4 kids, here we are, grown up. And then came the leadership in the Congress, and from there, the Watergate scandal, vice presidency, and then ultimately the President of the United States. And like my father, Mom, Betty Ford, didn't aspire to be the First Lady or to live in the White House. That was not in, her bucket list, as they say, I guess. She was getting ready to kind of ease her way out of Washington and go to the more retired life, but history took a turn and came in her direction and Dad's direction, and she welcomed that. She embraced that. And she found, as Steve said, this new sense of calling and new sense of purpose as the First Lady and as the wife of Gerald Ford. As the new First Lady, it was a time, really wasn't popular or trendy to talk about the role of women in society and their fair treatment. But she stepped out and spoke very courageously, very articulately for equal rights for women at all levels. And then with her own personal health, she faced this terrible, insidious disease of breast cancer and did it in a very open and vulnerable way, but in a way that turned her sadness into hope for many, many women, to help encourage them to get more education, to get treatment and medical care. She also brought a great spirit of playfulness, of openness, of grace, of style. Yeah, Betty Ford was a fashion lady and a dancer, and we'll see some of that, I think, in this beautiful statue. She brought that to the White House at that time. And as her son, I deeply loved and admired my mother for many reasons, but one quality, which Steve alluded to, especially resonates with me and has been informative in my life, and that is the quality and the gift of healing. As young children growing up, again, as Steve said, my dad's moving pretty fast, but she was always there for us as children. And when we kind of encountered our own disappointments, our own misdeeds, as children do, our own physical, emotional trauma, our hardships, she was there with her love and her caring. And through her renewed faith in God, she came to battle this terrible disease of alcohol and drug addiction, face that demon with the help of God, with the help of her family, and to turn that around and be one who gives guidance, encouragement, and strength to others who face this disease through the Betty Ford Center and all the hours, all the conversations, all the talks, all the visitations she gave for people fighting alcohol and drug dependency. That was her calling. That was her healing. When my mother left us in 2011, my brother Steve spoke about her identity and her place at the funeral, and I'll always remember how he framed it with a beautiful metaphor which described our family as a naval fleet. It's only appropriate. And so in that fleet, there was the battleship, right? The U.S. Gerald R. Ford CVN 78. And that was my father, leading us as a family on our mission as a family to serve, to give, to be the best citizens that we could be. But in that fleet, there was Mom. And she was the hospital ship. And as the fleet endured struggle, as the family took our beatings, as we got discouraged, along came my mom. And she was the one who brought us that care and that love and brought us healing in our family and for many families. She gave the gift of healing to the Ford family and to so many others throughout the nation and world. And so for that gift, myself and our family and many others are eternally grateful. So God bless my mom, and God bless Betty Ford. And I also want to give my special thanks to Peter and Joan Secchia and their wonderful contribution to make this statue a reality, to the Community Legends program, to the foundation, to have my father and mother so close together as they were all their lives, it is so very special to us. So thank you, and I can't wait to see her in her glory.
My compliment, Mike, on how quickly you did the benediction. I'm sorry that those of you who are out in the rain, but there's not much we can do about that. But we can tell this lady right now, we're not going to blow her cover. But I just want you kids to know that maybe she was just included in some of the pranks that I played on your father. And she and I would laugh about the sides of what we were going to do, but we did them. We did when we dedicated the Gerald R Expressway, and he pulled this blanket off the rock, and it had a big maze M. And then I was on the other side, and we pulled on the other rope, and it was a big white, green S. And the Grand Valley Band, just slightly enticed for uniform contributions, changed their song from the Michigan fight song to the state fight song. And I have a videotape of President Ford going, and the same thing happened in China. I have a videotape of that, so no one can think that's baloney. That's a true story. And I only told it to you at a table of 3. It is now out, but I hope everybody understands it was done in jest. And he called me up when he got back and said, Peter, how did you do that? Now, anyway, I want you to know that she was always beside him. So when I had a chance to include community legends, this our 10th or 11th statue, I knew the number, but that was so long ago before the speeches started, I forgot. 10 or 11. But we are, because she's such a special person, she was always beside him. Always. And she would even call when there were things that were done that weren't done in his best interest and talk to me about that. But I want to tell you that we aren't going to publicize this, and we're only saying this amongst friends, but she's a little bit in front of him now, too. And that's where we put her, beside him and a little bit in front of him. Because that's where he would have wanted her, by the way. And that's what the relationship was with her and our city and our friends. And countless times we had her out to our home or did things with them in California or in Beaver Creek. They were just wonderful. And they were done as a dedicated citizen of Grand Rapids. Proud to have him representing us. This is something that's always happened, and that's what Community Legends is about. It's to help us remember the past, because we know that there's a lot of people who will wonder what she was like and who she was. So she's now placed here in permanence. And because the brainiacs and the academics got involved, we even have a special footing on this thing, because they wanted to have something that would allow the statue to be moved. It only cost me another $6,000, but we got them what they wanted to please the government of the United States. Do you know anybody else who pleases the government of the United States besides me? Well, you know, all of a sudden, so I got to pay that. And Joe's saying, well, everybody in the museum, Nara, Washington. Well, who did you talk to in Washington? The librarian, the door lady? Who did you talk to? We said, oh, no, everybody in Washington wanted this. Okay, so it's down here. Nobody will ever see it, but it's another $6,000 that I'm gifting with the statue. But you know what? Anything I can do to help remember her is what the whole thing is about. And you kids, she loved you. She wanted to protect you. And she didn't have the resources to do that. Most people wouldn't even know it, but when Jerry Ford became Vice President of the United States, his income the year before was $36,000. That's all. That was his total income, including his extra fee for having the driver take him around as House Minority Leader. These were not easy times for the Ford family, but she stood above it all. So when we dedicate this statue and we pull off this ghost covering, we're going to show you what Brett and our committee thought, and the family all signed off on what this was of her. So is that what we do now, Joe? Do I just call everybody up? I call Joan? Give me some more hints. Give me some more hints. And the 3 children. Our 3 children? Grandchildren? Oh, the 4 children. Children, they're not children anymore, they're old men. Come on. Susan, get up here. You're the youngie in this deal. All right, now what do we do?
So if we could have maybe 3 on one side and 2 on the other. And Fred, we're going to pull back, right? Okay. One side. This way. On the count of 3, you're going to pull towards you. You're going to pull back. 1, 2, 3.